What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know so I can...
Chip Kelly has found himself, a brand new home. Whoa, skipping through the graphics here. But Chip Kelly's offense, to me, is going to be good for Ohio State. Look, the dude's been there several years with UCLA. As I get myself adjusted here, newest offensive coordinator to come into Ohio State. We know Brian Hartline tried to do his thing last year. We know that things have been handicapped by is Ryan Day really that good of a coach? Is, how many hands in the pot does he have and for his college football team? We know Kyle McCord was their quarterback last year, and he found himself in the transfer portal going all the way out to Syracuse and is going to try to get their offense running with new head coach Fran Brown, who came from Georgia and was part of a lot of success that Georgia's had over the years as far as their national championships are concerned. So that's going to be very interesting how to see how that all mixes up. But really and truly, Chip Kelly dropped his head coaching job to come over to Ohio State. And if you know anything about Chip Kelly, you know that there are several question marks around him from when he was a head coach in the NFL to his head coaching job previously with Oregon. But everybody wants to act like those Oregon teams are something to scoff at, and they had nothing but speed. It's kind of the college version of what we're seeing with the Miami Dolphins right now. Nothing but speed. DeAnthony Thomas, Kenyon Barner. Y'all remember those teams from back in the day. I don't need to keep going on with that. But when it comes to speed, it comes with the running game being good as well. Now, we know that Brian Hartline, as far as recruiting and things like that, we know the level of talent that he brings in, especially from the passing game standpoint, in your wide receiver room. And for all regards, I don't think the tight ends get enough credit for how well that they've done as well. Most recently, Cade Stover, who I had been sent as my number 2 tight end for the longest time, just right behind Brock Bowers. But watching more Cade Stover's film, I came out of that whole thing feeling like that Cade Stover was really and truly the number 2 best tight end in this year's, rookie class. So, by all regards, I looked at it like that. So, you could go through the names: Jackson Smith and Jigba, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Emeka Ibuka is still there. Julian Fleming, even though he's not an Ohio State guy, we're going to get into Penn State here a little later, has gone over to Penn State now to help Drew Allar out there. But in all regards, they've been a passing offense. And we've had the Travion Hendersons of the world, the Mayan Williams of the world back there in the backfield. And now they get a powerhouse running back with a great 1-2 punch that's about to happen in Ohio State with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins that came over from Ole Miss. Now, you ask yourself, okay, now that they got the wide receiver and powerhouse, the passing powerhouse, and now you go and get Will Howard for Kansas State, who in all regards I think is one of college football's best quarterbacks. Hey, I called it months ago, and Fishing, I know you in the chat, you remember this, man. I said, if anybody that's going to be in the transfer portal deserves to be at Ohio State, is Will Howard. And it looked very bleak. It didn't look like they were going to reach out to him at all. We heard the, USCs of the world and all that being the best fit for him. And then Miller Moss did what he did. But Will Howard, to me, was the best fit to go out there and fit in that offense and give him, not only a gutsy quarterback, but a kid in all regards that can do it all. And we know Devin Brown is there. We know the Saying kid is there too. But, when I look at the complete package of what they had to do, really their weak spot the last couple of years, even though they've had talent at the running back room, has been the running game. So when Chip Kelly decided, hey, I don't want to head coach anymore, we understand that he wasn't the best, not the best recruiter, but he just didn't want to do any more recruiting, which he's still going to have to do some of that as an offensive coordinator. But most likely that's going to be, a Ryan Day thing, which that's what he's good at. Him and James Franklin are so similar in the way that they recruit, call it what it is, but they are similar. And they're 2 Big Ten powerhouse head coaches, but I really think it's because of their head coaching recruiting prowess. But now, why this is such a great fit and that nobody really talks about this is Chip Kelly's offense is going to be great because of the running game this year. Why wouldn't he have wanted to take not only two great running backs in 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 himself, but now you have a double-headed monster in the running game where it's going to be good. Now let's just look at it over the years, just to kind of put this in perspective. These are the rushing ranks for Chip Kelly over the last 3 years. 2021, let's start right there at the bottom. He was number 2 in the Pac-12 in overall rushing and number 14 in the NCAA. 2022, number 1 in the Pac-12, number 6 in college football. Then last year, of course, Pac-12 and a bunch of other teams like, the Michigans of the world, were right in front of them, but still a top 10 rushing game, number 1 in the Pac-12 in rushing yardage. By all regards, man, a lot of people want to say that this dude's not a good coach, but it is what it is, man. He's going to bring a different element to Ohio State. When it happened to me, was I surprised that he would have gave up his head coaching prowess? Yeah, but I don't think it's as far-fetched to think that, a guy like him coming over to Ohio State and bringing what he brings to the running game when that really was like the missing piece to the puzzle. I mean, you have kids like Paris Johnson and things like that do come out of Ohio State. So, by all regards, a couple years ago, when you looked at pound for pound their offensive line, they had one of the biggest offensive lines and one of the best offensive lines in college football too. Now you stick 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Um, their running back room, like a Devin Brown, if he's been rumored to be the starter, back and forth, it is what it is. So I honestly think that this was a great move. Fisher said, "Who's the new AR Cam Ward?" No, we'll get into that here in a little bit. Ryan Day still can't announce a starter, though. I get the competition aspect, but I really don't know if Will Howard is better than Devin Brown. So you're looking at two different types of quarterbacks, and I remember last year we were big on. We didn't understand why Devin Brown wasn't the starter over Kyle McCord, and then you end up putting him in a couple packages, and it looks like just totally on the opposite side of that. Devin Brown didn't look all that great, but I mean, how great can you look when you're not getting first team reps and things like that? You come out by all regards. I remember us reading the reports, Fishing. We were like, Devin Brown looks like he's probably the better quarterback coming out of Ohio State at this point in time. And then they announced that Kyle McCord was the guy. I wonder how different a Ohio State team would have looked with him last year. But to me, Will Howard's a superior quarterback. I look at him kind of like I look at Bo Nix. Bo Nix has never been known. We've seen it firsthand at the Senior Bowl. We was out there and we were like, damn, Bo Nix kind of looks bad in practice. But there's game day Bo Nix, and then there's practice Bo Nix. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Will Howard. I think you remember the games out there. I mean, the game against Texas where they barely lost. And Will Howard kept them in that game the whole time. That could have been an upset last year. That could have changed the whole trajectory of what we've seen in the college football playoff. I've heard Julian saying is the youngest, but best pure passer of all the three. Absolutely. You watching any of his high school highlights, he's, it's kind of like the same problem that Michigan has. They have 5 quarterbacks deep, and a lot of them are just pure passers outside of, Orgy, who's, the bona fide starter at this point. And, Jim Harbaugh had nothing but good things to say about him. Chip wasn't a good NFL coach. He's a really good NCAA coach. I disagree. I mean, one of the best offensive line coaches that have been with the Philadelphia Eagles right now is Jeff Stoutland, that he brought from Oregon with them. And now we've been regarding the Philadelphia Eagles offense as one of the best offensive lines over the last couple of years. And it has a lot to do with him. I mean, coaching matters when you bringing in talent from other coaches too. It's not just wins and losses. But I get what you're saying, but still the Eagles had one of the best rushing offenses while he was there as well. So, I mean, I guess it just depends on how you look at it. Yeah. I mean, Chip Kelly wasn't trying to control. he can't control players at the NFL level like he can at the college level. Yeah, I see that aspect, and I think that's like that Urban Meyer's, like, you got to flip that switch. But, you know, some guys can't. But also, going to Philadelphia is one of the hardest markets to coach in too. So I agree and kind of disagree on that. I think he's an overall good coach, but I think what Chip Kelly's doing is probably the best thing for his career. And I'm predicting it. You know, I said this months ago to Fishing. Chip Kelly going to Ohio State is setting, if Ryan Day does bad and his offenses are good, you are setting Ryan Day up to be replaced by a Chip Kelly going into that market. We've seen it time and time again. It could happen. And, you know, I don't know how good of a relationship that Brian Hartline has with Ryan Day at this point, but you keep Brian Hartline as one of the best not one of the best, the best wide receiving recruiter in college football. All Chip has got to worry about is getting some running backs out there. I'm so excited to see what he does. Like, I damn near have them and Oregon as the best two teams in college football right now. I don't see, somebody really has to make the argument of why they aren't better. I mean, you could throw Texas in there, but, you know, pound for pound, I think Will Howard could be a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers, because I don't think Quinn Ewers is that good at with the deep ball on film. It's, you know, he's inconsistent. One Fly Migo, what up, man? He said, if the reports are true about Chip Kelly, I don't see him winning. I don't see him winning about Ohio State. No reason for Shady or Deshaun to lie. And maybe Chip has changed his ways. But again, we always saw reports from one side of it. Have we truly heard what Chip Kelly's side of it was? You know, I don't know. I don't want to get into identity politics on who the guy is, but I mean, I see what you're saying, but I mean, has UCLA been a powerhouse? But no, he's constantly put guys that we really don't think should be NFL caliber players into the NFL. I mean, Latu, the two Murphy brothers at this point. We've had DTR. We've had Joshua Kelly, who plays for the Chargers, has been a pretty good running back for them. So, you know, it is what it is. Fisher said, you're riding the coattails of what people say. True or not, true doesn't mean he's a bad coach or that everybody hates him, dog. I can't. Yeah, that's the other side of it too, is like, you've only heard it from those two. Have you ever heard it from any of the Oregon players that were there? I mean, by all regards, Chip Kelly wanted to draft Marcus Mariota, and he never got to. So, I mean, that has a lot. I don't know, man. That's a crazy situation to think about. Straight up, Bobby Petrino, Arkansas. Yeah. Gris said, that's more of what I meant. He's just overall better at as an NCAA coach. Oh yeah, for sure. The accomplishments are, you know, are what it is. One Flamingos play harder for certain coaches that push them to the limit, and for coaches that treat them well. You got to have a good relationship with your players. Oh, I mean, that comes with being a head coach or any type of coach, right? The relationships that you build with those players, but also every team has its own style of how you have to coach them too. So it's up to the coach to adapt, but also have enough authority to say, this is what we're going to do. And I don't know if sometimes those things do match up, just from my experience. BLSG says, well, Howard should be the starter this year, as he has so much potential. I've watched 3 or 4 of his games, and he looked efficient enough to compete in the Big Ten. Might be a bit more difficult, though. I mean, yeah, Texas. Are they? Because, yeah, Texas, they were a CFP team, and he almost beat Texas. I've watched his games with Texas, Baylor, and Missouri. I forget I watched one more or not. Yeah, probably have. So, by all regards, man, Chip Kelly's offense, I think they're going to be really damn good. I think he came in at the right time. Having Brian Hartline kind of take a back seat and kind of learning from one of the best, especially in the run game, his offensive mind, I think, is going to be really good for everybody involved. So if Ohio State has a good offense and are cohesive, are you going to have the same opinion on Chip? Oh, One Fly Migo, answer the question. I always say everybody needs to hear this. Yep. It is what it is. I could tell you nothing but the truth from my perspective.